Welcome back to the Magnolia Media Podcast, brought to you by RHR Productions. I'm your host, Jonathan M. Ruggiero. Well, the debate fallout continues for Dementia J. Trump, the convicted felon, as new polls showing VP Harris with a solid lead. And this lead will likely grow even more in the next week or so. While 67 million people did tune in to last week's debate, 51 million tuned in for the June debate between Trump and Biden. The debate, which was catastrophic for the Trump campaign, we have to keep in mind that millions more will likely watch on YouTube or on Reels or in clips that they can put together and get a complete picture of what exactly happened last Tuesday. According to Nate Silver, the man responsible for ABC's 538, the polling outfit, he says it could take another full week for Kamala's debate bump to show in polling. As the campaign continues, Harris and Walz crisscross the nation. All of this while Donald Trump is in complete hunker down mode. Trump again had a meltdown in Los Angeles at a fundraiser with only friendly media in attendance. Meanwhile, J.D. Vance put foot in mouth. By the way, Swift repeats endorsement at the MTV Movie Awards, encouraging Swifties to, at the very least, get out and vote. You could sort of read between the lines there and see that she was telling them not just to get out and vote, but be sure to get out and vote for Kamala Harris. More from J.D. Vance, quote, "We admire Taylor Swift's music, but I don't think most Americans, whether they are fans of hers or not, are going to be influenced by a billionaire celebrity who, I think, is fundamentally disconnected from the problems of most Americans." Well, holy shit, JD. You figured the whole thing out, didn't you? You just described your boss in one poorly structured sentence. A billionaire who really doesn't get it. The difference is Taylor Swift didn't inherit $400 million. Taylor Swift didn't have her father buy her into the University of Pennsylvania and then to the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania, where, according to everyone who was either in class with him or taught him while he was there, was incredibly glad to see his sorry ass go. Dementia J. Trump has been a blight on society since he was a child. Just ask his niece, Mary Trump, who, by the way, is a psychologist and has firsthand knowledge and encounters with her uncle. So when she comes out and says something like he has severe narcissistic personality disorder, you can more or less take that to the bank, can't you? Since they tell the rest of us not to play psychologist from home, or that it'd be irresponsible to try to diagnose someone from your couch. So it's important to remind J.D. Vance that you just described your boss. Your boss, El Jefe, El Jefer, in Donald Trump's case. The same can be said for other celebrities. It's not just limited to Taylor Swift. We all know about George Clooney's struggles getting started. Julia Roberts, Kerry Washington, and John Legend, just to name a few. John Legend, by the way, is actually from the town in Ohio that seems to be under constant attack by the Trump campaign because it's home to 5,000 Haitian migrants. Not 20,000, not 100,000, not a million. 5,000 who've taken up jobs in places like, meat packing plants where they actually do the killing on the floor. Jobs Americans won't do, which has helped lift Springfield, Ohio out of, rather dark days, a dark couple of decades, as the town of 60,000 is now flourishing. Something to think about, JD, next time you open mouth to insert foot. And I just want to say kudos to the Washington Post. On Sunday, the Post finally pointed out that Trump's cognition was a real issue. The piece said, quote, Trump avoided all primary debates, preventing even the most minimal vetting. A mass audience saw Trump unaided by a media straining to normalize him. Good job and about fucking time, Washington Post. The article went on to say, quote, he imploded, and let's be clear, on why his meltdown had such a profound impact. The mainstream political media have never fully conveyed the extent of his dissension and his disassociation from reality. His discombobulated speech and lack of substance in covering his rallies as if he was making an argument or even clashing with Democrats. It imbued him with coherence that he lacked. They continued, forgiving any sustained coverage of the mental and emotional decline. Many in the news media kept his defects under wraps. Trump was nuts. He's spouting 21% inflation. He's spouting lies about the highest crime rates in American history, when in fact, crime rates were higher when he was president of the United States, and inflation currently stands at 2.5%. So thank you, Washington Post, for finally calling out this bullshit, the twisting and contorting of mainstream political news to try and make Donald Trump sound, something less than completely crazy and incapable of being president of the United States, of even just managing the most menial tasks. His derangement can no longer be hidden. Too many outlets have tried to ignore or normalize his incoherence and his detachment from reality for far too long. Now, on to the Looney Tunes. Senator Tom Tillis, Republican in North Carolina, called Loomer, quote, a crazy conspiracy theories. He declared, open quote, a DNC plant couldn't do a better job than she is doing to hurt Trump's chances of re-election. Close quote. Credit the Washington Post once again, who was kind of on a roll this weekend, if you haven't noticed. This begs the question, why are the MAGA faithful, especially in the House, seemingly so terrified? Perhaps reps like Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Jim Jordan assume a more aggressive attorney general appointed by a future Harris-Walz administration wouldn't just focus on January 6 insurrectionists who were in the crowd outside, but those who voted against certifying the 2020 election and feeding lies to the MAGA faithful, and likely receiving contributions from Russia as they echo Kremlin talking points, like the alt-right podcasters, Benny Johnson, Tim Pool, who are embroiled in a Russia payoff scheme where they were making hundreds of thousands of dollars a month to post videos promoting Russian propaganda. Investigations against Matt Gaetz will intensify. This is, of course, if Kamala Harris wins, as his drug-fueled interstate sex parties with minors has already led Gaetz' party pal to prison. I believe his name was Matt Greenberg, who was bringing young ladies across the Alabama state line into Florida to party and do drugs. Text messages, pictures, videos, all back this up. And this brings us back to Madison Cawthorn. Remember little Maddie? Madison Cawthorn of North Carolina, the Republican congressman who said that the Republican Party and the House was focused on drug-fueled sex parties. And that's a direct quote. Sex-fueled drug parties. I don't know who's having sex with Marjorie Taylor Greene, but I feel terrible for them. Based on the list of meds prescribed by disgraced former White House physician Ronnie Jackson, Maddie may very well have a point. Speaking truths, that is, little Maddie Cawthorn. More on Dr. Jackson, Trump's favorite doctor, who is now a MAGA congressman from Texas, who evidently likes to glug, 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 and then threaten officers and EMTs in a drunken rant during a rodeo. Wee boy! And as if everything in Trump world wasn't bad enough, a new poll conducted by the Des Moines Register, the first time they'd done a poll since June, which showed Joe Biden trailing Donald Trump by 18 points, now shows Kamala Harris within 4 points, which is within the margin of error of 5.1. That's right. Iowa is now in play for the first time since 2008 and the continued coarsening of American politics. It's not right. It's not fair. Doesn't make sense. But then again, the entire country is being opened up to a candidate who gives you the feeling of prosperity, of positivity, who's not going out on a negative war rant all the time. She's the smiling warrior and a person who absolutely knows what she's doing, especially when the person against whom she is running is a convicted felon. As a former ADA, district attorney, and attorney general, she knows exactly how to handle someone like Donald Trump. Laura Loomer can't be good for a campaign that's collapsing. A 9/11 denier was invited to a 9/11 memorial. A 9/11 memorial? And she rode there on Donald Trump's plane, even though he denies knowing who the hell she even is. But she strokes the ego, and Trump likes that, being stroked. By the way, Google a picture of Laura Loomer. She makes the Trump lawyer, Alina Habba, look like a centerfold. Loomer is a frightening example of the type of people who will surround Trump if he were to be reelected. Warning. Even Lindsey Graham doesn't think Loomer should be anywhere near the campaign. However, she is helping to sink the sinking ship. Short episode today. Just a little catch up from where we're at. And by the way, the elephant in the room, of course, is the gunshots that were fired while Trump was doing what Trump does, not eating McDonald's, but playing golf at a golf course in West Palm Beach. Apparently, a man laid in wait in bushes for 11 hours, waiting for Trump to appear at the golf course, and then apparently fired some shots at no one because Trump was 400 yards away with an old AK-47, serial numbers scraped off. He left the gun lying in the bushes and took off in a pickup truck. He was later arrested on I-95. And yes, it was very much like the Dylan Roof video. He was taken into custody without incident and made his first court appearance this morning. This is being recorded on Monday the 15th. So you have Monday the 16th rather. So you have some idea of how this was all going down, especially if you're listening to this in the all audio podcast form. Now, the fact the man took some shots at God knows what is secondary. We can't have political violence in this country, even against someone as awful and as piggish as Donald Trump. It can't happen. However, before they start with the calls that it had to have been Democrats and the rhetoric of the Democratic Party and of people like myself who caused this to happen to Donald Trump, who had his ear nicked back in July. The guy, the man who took the shot, Ryan Roof, I think is his name, is a Nikki Haley supporter. He's a Donald Trump voter. In fact, a Twitter X post talked about voting for him in 2016, hoping that candidate Trump would turn into President Trump once he was imbued with that great responsibility. And that didn't happen. And apparently it made this man quite mad. Mad enough to plot for 4 years on how to get rid of him in his own way. Now, nothing I have said here has been pro-violence or even accepting of this man's sickness. One must suffer from some sort of mental illness to think they are going to get away with taking a shot at a president, even if he's just taking shots across a tee box with a president 400 yards away. Can't do it. There's no place in this country for political violence. None. And that goes for Republicans when they're constantly threatening Democrats, saying they're going to show up at voting booths or at polling locations with guns. They're going to produce AI videos saying people are being shot trying to get in to vote at polling place A, B, or C. This will especially be true in states like Georgia, Texas, and Florida, probably even North Carolina. They likely won't get away with it in states like Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, because the state government is run by Democrats. However, it's something to think about. As life continues to get more and more complicated, as the role we play in the world becomes more and more complicated, remember this: our North Star is a thriving democracy with as many rights as possible. We want to protect the environment, to cut back on the types of guns used by this maniac in the bushes or the maniac on top of the shack in Butler, Pennsylvania. We are the ones who want AR-15s and AK-47s taken off the streets. And even if Hitler were to be assassinated with one of these weapons, they would still insist it wasn't the weapon, it was the sick person. Although if they didn't have access to that weapon, they would have to charge the President of the United States with a knife. And I don't know how that would go. At any rate, I'll leave you with that. Rather short episode today. I'm your host, Jonathan M. Ruggiero. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Magnolia Media Podcast, an RHR production. And until next time, tomorrow, be well, won't you?